Good day, everyone! Allow me to introduce myself first. I am Jean Tulang, and I will be the first presenter of our topic. So our topic is all about mapping program learning outcomes with course learning outcomes based on the DepedCG Mathematics Curriculum Guide. Okay, let's start first with our learning outcomes. So at the end of the lesson, students are expected to first, explain the central concept circulating in the curriculum mapping. Second, apply what was understood in mapping program learning outcomes. And third, demonstrate how to map program learning outcomes with course learning outcomes based on the DepedCG Mathematics Curriculum Guide. I will be discussing what is curriculum mapping, the 5 levels of mapping, and the benefits of mapping learning outcomes. So first, what is curriculum mapping? In most cases, curriculum mapping refers to the alignment of learning standards and teaching. How well and to what extent a school or a teacher has matched the content that students are actually taught with the academic expectations described in learning standards. But it may also refer to the mapping and alignment of all the many elements that are entailed in educating students, including assessments, textbooks, assignments, lessons, and instructional techniques. Curriculum mapping is the process indexing or diagramming a curriculum to identify and address academic gaps, redundancies, and misalignments for purposes of improving the overall coherence of a study and by extension and its effectiveness. So a curriculum in the sense that the term is typically used by the educators encompasses everything that teachers teach to students in a school or course, including the instructional materials and techniques they use. So a curriculum map identifies where in the curriculum learning outcomes are addressed, what is taught, where and how, or conversely, the mapping may help you determine whether your curriculum and learning outcomes are aligned and may reveal gaps in your curriculum. So by curriculum mapping, some questions by the teachers and even parents are asked, so what do my students learn? Or for the parents would ask, what do my children study in school? Or do my co-teachers who handle the same subject cover the same content? Or do they also achieve the same outcomes? Or do I help my student understand the connection between my subjects and other subjects within the school year? So these are some questions answered with the help of curriculum mapping. So, curriculum is functional tool in a curriculum development or simply a map to success. Curriculum mapping process happened differently in different institutions. So we also have the traditional mapping process, which is in contrast to the current one. So first, let's have the traditional process of curriculum mapping. So being the most common approach, curriculum mapping was entirely done by the faculty but often without discussion with the student affairs or without the student themselves. So hence, the result obtained rarely represented the fullness of a degree or the student's learning experience. So that is the traditional mapping. So there are 3 traditionally used approaches to curriculum mapping. So first, mapping learning outcomes started with the compilation of responses got as a result of sending an Excel spreadsheet or template electronically to the faculty or staff. So the first one is the compilation of the responses nga itong ibutang sa Excel spreadsheet or the template. So the second is the completion of the entire mapping by the program head who does it in isolation to be submitted to the assessment management system. So there could be less or no conversation with other faculties during this process. So in this process, you will have no conversation with the other faculties. So the third one is a meeting point where faculty comes together to identify the alignment of the course and to address various learning outcomes. Usually, this step is entailed by a planned examination. So for the third one, the faculty comes together. So that is for the traditional process in curriculum mapping. So let's have the current scenario. So mapping is nothing but a visual approach that analyzes the underlying framework of a program. Unlike the traditional way, the overview mapping learning outcomes can be achieved in many ways. So the creation of charts, tables, and graphs. So mapping determines how the current requirements of your program support the achievement of your learning outcome goals. So the current scenario is quite creative because we can have it in charts, tables, or graphs. So unlike the traditional way, so they are quite different. So I have here an example of a much simpler version of a curriculum map that is built in a two-dimensional matrix. So with the learning outcomes arrayed across the top as the x-axis and the courses listed down on the left side as y-axis. So that's just an example of a simpler version of a curriculum map. Alright, so let's move on to the 5 levels of mapping. So, while there is strictly no right or wrong to handle the mapping process, we understood that each of the approaches might also have the strengths and weaknesses of its own. So, we have the 5 levels of the mapping learning outcomes are as follows. First is a program outcomes course mapping. Second is the course outcome program outcomes mapping. Third is the assessment course level outcomes mapping. Fourth is the syllabus course level outcomes mapping. And the fifth is the questions course level outcomes mapping. So let's have the first one, the level 1. So the first and foremost step of the learning outcome is that it should be mapped with the program outcomes. So the program outcomes, which were earlier referred to as the graduate attributes, that is all about what you expect from a graduate in his 4 years of graduation. So compliable with the Bloom's taxonomy, this level of mapping let the instructor set up a threshold value alongside the program learning. Next is we have the level 2. Aligning program level outcomes with the course level outcomes, and that is the second level of mapping. So this level of outcomes mapping focuses on students' learning and it allows faculty to create a visual map of a program. It is also the exact place to explore how students are meeting the program level outcomes at the course level. So that is for the level 2. The level 3, this level of mapping facilitates the alignment of the various assessments with the course's outcomes. So the following visual represents what will the students know and be able to do as a result of the course at the course level. So that's it for the third level. Let's go to the level 4 of mapping, the syllabus course level outcome mapping. So this is the main and the whole of the mapping levels. So this shows how the entire syllabus gets mapped with the courses in the given course time. So let's go to the level 5. Questions, course level outcomes mapping. So it is at this level that the students develop an insight into becoming powerful questioners. An authentic inquiry learning with a visual summary on a topic is mapped with the courses. So Bloom's taxonomy's various levels are catered to here. So those 5 levels of mapping articulate how curriculum and learning goals match together. So as a next step, gathering evidence of the students' learning follows, which involves determining assessment methods and identifying measures. Alright, so let's proceed to the benefits of mapping learning outcomes. So first, it identifies how the required courses add to the achievement of the program outcomes. So when it comes to learning outcomes, the rising demands in today's institution has left the departments to ruminate on course content, curricular goals, a regular and systematic review process of the goals, how courses supports the attainment of the goals, and how these goals are assessed. Second, it expands the students' achievement in achieving program outcomes. So it expands the students' learning capacity and also the achievements to attain the program outcomes. Third is we have it works on reflection by refilling gaps in the curriculum and propagates remedial classes. So it makes sure that the competencies are appropriate to the level of the students. Also that it is to make sure that all the topics are covered and to bridge the gap by conducting the remedial classes. So the fourth one is the course instructors become fully aware of the other courses in which students achieve similar outcomes and can plan their syllabi accordingly, thus reinforcing the outcomes, helping in skill or knowledge development, and avoiding overlap. So the teacher teaching the same subject at the same grade level should have a similar phasing, therefore they follow the same timeline and accomplish the same learning outcomes. So diba, to avoid overlapping, for example, the English in grade 5 should not be overlapping the English in grade 6. Next, it helps to determine the course prerequisites and program requirements based on how the outcomes fit together. So as we all know that a prerequisite means that a course or other requirement that a student must have taken prior to enrolling in a specific course or program. Next, it shows the logic and the overall design of a program and captures the relevance of its courses. So it pictures out the learning outcomes and the learning experiences and activities that are aligned together. So the mapping learning outcomes, it will make the teaching learning process more relevant, effective, and meaningful. So I think that would be all for my part, and I will give the floor to the next presenter.
Good morning to everyone. I am Nabel Kusain, the next presenter or your next teacher about to discuss the mapping program learning outcomes with course learning outcome based on the DepEd Mathematics Curriculum Guide. So first of all, I would like to ask everyone a question, and that question is, how are you today? Are you feeling happy? Are you sad? Are you frustrated? Are you excited? Does someone makes you happy today? Does someone making you smile today? Are you in love? Sana all. So I would like to request everyone to comment an emoji to our comment section here in our Google Meet that describes the feeling or emotion that you are experiencing or that you are feeling right now. So I hope that everyone is doing great at your homes, and I hope that despite everything else, everyone is still hopeful despite the situation that you are currently experiencing. Okay, so now we will start our discussion about mapping program learning outcomes with course learning outcomes based on the DepEd Mathematics Curriculum Guide. Okay, so we have here our learning outcomes. So I believe that these three learning outcomes have been presented by the first presenter, which is Miss Jean Tulang. And I'm going to present it again so that everyone will be reminded what our target goals for today. So first is, so at the end of the lesson, students are expected to explain the central concepts circulating in the curriculum mapping. Second is apply what was understood in mapping PLOs, or that stands for Program Learning Outcomes. And lastly, demonstrate how to map program learning outcomes with course learning outcomes based on the DepEd Mathematics Curriculum Guide. But before I'm going to start, um, in the course of our discussion today, I prepared 3 questions. So these questions will be useful in the upcoming quiz that will going to happen next week. So I would like, every time that we arrive at this question, I would like to ask everyone to answer the question, or if you are confident that you're going to pass the quiz next week, then it's okay if you're not going to answer the question. So if you got the right answer to this question, then I will be rewarded you a equivalent points. So each question is equivalent to 1 point, and these points can be added to your it can be added to your quiz, to your score next week. So in case na mabagsak mo, for let's say for example, kulangan na lang isa ka pakog para makapasar. So if naka-answer ka sa question, then makapasar na ka. Or either like nakay 1 mistake and then nakay 2 points na nakuha karon na lesson, then you are only going to use or consume only 1 point, then may mo nang perfect yung score. So the mechanics of ang mechanics kung kinsa ang pilion para matagano points, it will be a first come first serve basis. So I will be choosing the first 3 correct answers na nakakuha sa correct na answer each question. So I hope that everything is clear. Okay, so now let's going to continue. So curriculum mapping PLOs, or that stands for Program Learning Outcomes. So some of you might be confused, or some of you will question me that the focus of our topic is all about mapping program learning outcomes, but here you can see in the slide that I am talking about curriculum mapping. So to answer that question, mapping program learning outcomes is just a small portion in the process of curriculum mapping. So in other words, curriculum mapping is a long process that involves not only the teachers but also all the people needed or involved in the school, and you're going to have a deliberation and have create a curriculum guide. And in creating a curriculum guide, curriculum mapping is very important, and mapping the learning outcomes such as the program, the course, and the intended outcomes is part of this mapping. Okay, so what is a curriculum map? So a curriculum map can help both in designing and communicating the coherence, the developmental, sequential, and goal-oriented nature of your program. Okay, then a curriculum map identifies where in the curriculum learning outcomes are addressed, what is taught, where and how, or conversely, the mapping process may help you determine whether your curriculum, take note whether your curriculum and learning outcomes are aligned, okay, are aligned, and may reveal gaps in your curriculum. Okay, so before you can proceed into your before you can proceed in mapping program learning outcomes, first you need to prepare or determine your program learning outcomes. Okay, so I believe that this is being clearly discussed by the group one, the what are the program, course, and intended learning outcomes, and how it is made. And I hope that that is clear, because if you fully understand those concepts, then I believe that in this topic you will also have a default time understanding it. Okay, so once you have determined your program learning outcomes, you are ready to map them to the curriculum. So this mapping serve as a process of charting the course of your students' learning opportunities. When building the map, you might discover three things. Take note, guys, three things. When building the map, you might discover three things. First is, there are learning outcomes that are not being fully addressed. So there are times that the learning outcomes are not aligned or not being tackled or not being addressed to the curriculum that you are planning to use in your school. Okay, so consider that you might need to refine your outcomes, course design, or curriculum. Next is when, where, and how to collect assessment data. There are most likely embedded assignments or activities that you can sample to assess your outcomes. And lastly, where you can make changes for improvement after you've collected and analyzed assessment data. Again, so the last is where you can make changes for improvement after you've collected and analyzed. So in curriculum mapping, you can see or you can determine the some parts that need to be changed for improvement. So it is very important why curriculum mapping is done. Okay, here is our first question. Again, you need to write your answer in the comment section of our Google Meet, and the basis will be first come first served. So in this case, I'll be choosing the first three correct answers. Okay, so among the three learning outcomes that we have presented, cite at least one. Okay, again, among the learning outcomes that we have presented, cite at least one. So if you listen attentively our discussion, and I presented our learning outcomes again, so I believe that you can answer this one. Okay, so I'm going to give you 1 minute for this. Okay, time's up. Okay, continue. So there are many more benefits to curriculum mapping. Mapping can help you ascertain that your program design and teaching practice are. So I think there are 11 benefits that you can get from curriculum mapping. So from the word itself, ascertain. So mapping can help you ascertain. So mapping can help you make sure. So make sure that your program design and teaching practice are first. So I think these 11 benefits are self-explanatory, and all of these 11 are surface level. So I think that everyone will not have a hard time understanding each because they are easy to understand. Okay, so first is ensuring coherent and meaningful curriculum. So course series designed to achieve outcomes. Following good educational practice, continued, steady, systematic, and incremental. Third, supporting student learning and development, so coherence and integration. The fourth benefit is documenting faculty professional responsibility, so faculty intentionally cultivate and assess student learning. Then next is facilitating faculty, collegiality, shared purpose, and the scholarship of teaching and learning. Next, addressing accountability issues. So standards, program review, academic quality, program prioritization, and budgeting. Then next, addressing accreditation requirements, so systematic and comprehensive. Next is implementing assessment program. Alignment of learning goals and curricula is critical to assessment. Informing curriculum enhancement, closing the loop in assessment. So I think we're going in curriculum mapping. We are trying to find holes or like mistakes and as much as possible to determine those loopholes in order to have a comprehensive curriculum guide, okay, or curriculum mapping. Next is stimulating scholarship of curriculum. And lastly, engaging students in their own learning, developing ethical self-authors and lifelong learners. Okay, so there are two easy steps in mapping program learning outcomes with course learning outcomes. Again, there are only two easy steps, and I hope that you will take note of this, okay? So it is very easy as long as you listen carefully, okay? First step is start with a matrix that lines up the program's required courses on one axis and the program learning outcomes, also called college competencies, along the other. Use the cells in the matrix to identify where students are learning, practicing, and mastering skills competencies. So the first step is you're going to use a matrix. So I believe a matrix, ang forma sa matrix is some sort of a table. Every school has different templates or different matrix that you're going to utilize in mapping program learning outcomes. It depends on the school. Then, laylay po ang manggawa sa internet when it comes to templates. But the most common one is on the first column, you're going to write all the course learning outcomes. And then on the first row, which is the uppermost part of the table or the matrix, it is where you're going to write all the program learning outcomes. And those blank spaces, you're going to write there the learning attainment of the students or how teachers were able to execute and achieve those learning outcomes. Okay. So again, the first step is start with a matrix. And also, laylay or depende sa school, neuban na maghimos law kaugalingong matrix, and I think neuban na murag katong example ganiya is that is the most common one na gigamit sa mga universities and other schools. And later I'm going to show you an example if unsay forma sa matrix, okay? Next is the second step. Within the matrix, you may wish to differentiate the levels of students' learning opportunities with regard to a particular outcome. So, muna kung gingon ganiha, katong blank spaces, muna mong fill upan. But nga ni mo siya og, you're going to write different levels of student learning opportunities. You can use a scale that shows the level of learning the student achieves on a mastery or competency scale by the end of the course. So, we have here you're going to use a mastery or competency scale, and those are words that will identify or that describes the level of the learning student at the end of the particular course or program. So here it's stated here na you can use a scale that shows the level of learning the student achieves on a mastery or competency scale. Again, mastery or competency scale. So example of a mastery or competency scale. So here is an example. There are three. So beginning, intermediate, advanced, introducing, practicing, mastering, emerging, developing, proficient. So this competency scale is subjective. So laylay kada school laylay po ang ilaang gamiton na competency scale. So magdepende siya sa school. So nayo ba na there are some school that you're going to generate their own competency scale that will fit or that will describe or perfectly describe their curriculum that you are making. Okay, or how or the mapping of the program learning outcomes with regards to the course learning outcomes. Okay, so you can use letter A, beginning, intermediate, advanced. So this competitive scale, these are the words, these are the words that you're going to put on the blank space or the blank spaces that you need to fill up in the matrix. Okay, so the above examples designate developmental skills, which indicate how far a student is expected to have advanced by the end of the course toward a standard of competence or a program learning outcome. Okay, so designate developmental skills. So indicate how far a student is expected to have advanced. Okay, so mo ni siya ang so these are the indicators for students further advance in a particular course or program. So we have here another question. So same rules that we're going to apply. Okay, true or false? A curriculum plan identifies where in the curriculum learning outcomes are addressed, what is taught, where and how. Or conversely, the planning process may help you determine whether your curriculum and learning outcomes are aligned and may reveal gaps in your curriculum. So, identify if this statement is true or false. Again, you have 1 minute to answer this. So ang uban, if confident mo na makapasa mo sa quiz or confident mo na dako mo score, so it's okay if you're not going to answer this question. So, if ang uban ganahan mo participate, then there's no problem with that. Then if ang uban peki siguro or basin expect na lisod ang exam, so this is your opportunity to gather points para magamit ninyo sa quiz next week. I think this is easy. If naminaw lang mo, naman na kuan na ko ganiha. Okay, time's up. Balik sa tani. Aning kuan. So, the purpose of curriculum map is to identify and then illustrate the components of the program. And together achieve the overall educational objectives. So, the map plays out, ipakita sa map, where in the curriculum students have the opportunity to learn, practice, and reinforce skills and competences. So makita tanan aning curriculum mapping unsa ang learning opportunities that a certain student will achieve by the end of the course or program. And then moving on, naman din, no? So here, so aside sa katong competency scale, again, competency mastery competency, so aside ani, there are alternatives or like laing gamiton na pamaagi para ma-identify o ma-determine kung unsa ning mga usaon pag-indicate sa learning attainment sa mga students. So we have here, ganiya is we have the competency scale, and now we have intensity scale. So which indicates the degree of teaching, learning that occurs in the course. So sa intensity scale, ang indicate niya is the degree of teaching or learning. So pwede na, if mag-intensity scale ka, pwede ma-indicate if ang teaching or the teacher na-cover ba ang topic, or like for example kaning nasa third example, we have here like for example a certain topic, so is it being lightly covered, moderately covered, or heavily covered. So mo ni siya ang intensity scale. And kani is ang competency scale kay how far for the student ra jud ni siya, for student ni siya gamiton. Ang intensity scale is both for either for teaching or learning. Okay. In mapping program learning outcomes, each program is required to demonstrate how its curriculum advances student development of the college competencies. So when you talk about college competencies, mo ni siya ang program learning outcomes. Again, nato siya ani. Wait for a while. Atong pangitaon. Asa naman to? Dara. So, daani state na the program learning outcomes, also called college competencies. So, kato is, ang ipasabot niya to is ang program learning competencies. So, again, in mapping program learning competencies, each program is required to demonstrate how its curriculum advances student development of the college competencies. And this is done through curriculum mapping. Okay? So, para mapakita, ma-demonstrate how its curriculum advances, we need to go or we need to undergo curriculum mapping. So the key to mapping the college competencies or program learning outcomes is to use an intensity scale. So I would like to clear this one. So ang competency scale, ang intensity scale, it is subjective. So maglaylahay dito siya. So depende sa school, pwede mo-generate o kaugalingong scale ang school or pwede po sila mo gamit sa unsay gigamit sa laing school. It depends sa school kung unsay lang gamiton. So kani is nanay ikatulo na sad na lain sa pud siya na scale, the 0 to 3 scale. So ani the key, it states that the key to mapping the program learning outcomes is to use an intensity scale that indicates not the endpoint, but the degree to which the student is expected to advance by completing the course. So intensity is indicated on a 0 to 3 scale. So ani na part, lain na po ni siya na scale ang gigamit. This is 0 to 3 scale, where 3 would indicate a potential assessment point. So here is it. So from 0 to 3, so level 0 to level 3. So sa level 0, na ay gikuha na ni na makita ni ninyo here, mo ni siya ang level 0. So college competency, or again college competency, mo na siya ang program learning outcomes. Okay, so college competency is not aligned with the course learning outcome. So if in a curriculum mapping ninyo, then nabatayan ninyo na murag wala na align ang program learning outcomes sa course learning outcomes, level 0 ang ibutang ninyo sa matrix. And then for level 1, bubutang mong level 1 if the college competency is aligned with the course learning outcomes. Students may use these college competencies in course activities. And then college competency may be a component of assessment. So, mo na siya ang sa level 1. For level 2, college competency may be expressed in one of the course learning outcomes. And then, students demonstrate this college competency in course activities and graded assignments. College competency is a clearly articulated component of the assessment. And lastly, students are given feedback on this college competency. So basically, magkasaka ang level, mas better. So mas the more na mas na-align ang program learning competency sa course learning, the program learning outcomes sa course learning outcomes. And then for level 3, the highest level, so college competency is expressed in one or more of the course learning outcomes. Students demonstrate this college competency in course activities and graded assignments. College competency is a clearly articulated and significant component of the assessment. Students are given frequent, ongoing feedback on this college competency. Second to the last, the instructor directly teaches to this college competency. And lastly, students are provided with multiple opportunities to show improvement or mastery of this college competency. So based on the research, there are mapping, curriculum mapping, especially and in the part which is mapping of program learning outcomes, with course learning outcomes, nayuban na kaniyang gigamit na competency kaning level 1, level 2, and level 3. And kaniyang ilang gigamit na reference. And I believe na murag subjective food siguro ni siya. So pwede po mo generate ang kani is from nakalimot ko saan siya na school nagigamit ni siya. And then again kung gingon late ganihan na it depends on the school kung unsa ang ilang gamiton na intensity scale, if kuan ba ilaha competency scale ba or intensity scale. Then we have the kato 0 to 3 intensity scale. Okay, so we have here another question. So this is the last question. So all of the following are examples of competency scale except for A, emerging, developing, proficient, introduce, reinforce, emphasize, that's B. Letter C is beginning, intermediate, advanced, and D is all of the above. So again, all of the following are examples of competency scale except for, so muna itong first na akong gihatag na gigamit sa mapping program learning outcomes. Okay, the first three gihapon, first three correct answers ang akong Tagalog points. First come, first serve gihapon, okay? 1 minute sa gihapon eh. Okay, time's up. So now, magpakita ko og kanang example. Okay. Akong gigamit na example is kaning gihatag sa atong teacher, which is si Ma'am Lapore. Hi ma'am, good morning. So mo ni siya mo ni ang atong course syllabus sa subject na to sa M113. So, dara. So, di ba ang first na to ng step is start with the matrix. So, mo nang gigamit na matrix ani the course syllabus. Okay. So, di ba kung gingon ganiya na before you can start mapping program learning outcomes, first you need to determine your program learning outcomes. So, in our subject which is M113, mo ni ang atong program learning outcomes. So there are 8. Okay. And then, mo niyang gigamit na matrix ni ma'am. So we have here, ingani, walay po din siya, mo lagi siya. So ang first column kay for course learning outcomes, and yung kaning ani dapat is sa kuan. So kaning makita ninyo na I, D, D, E, E, mo ni siya tong giingon na competency scale or ang intensity scale. So ani is lahi na po siya na kuan. So as I said earlier na it is subjective, maglahi siya magdepende sa school. So ang ani is ang budget na kay introduced, enabled, and demonstrated. So mo ni siya ang course outcomes, and then imo siyang i-align. So for the program learning outcome 1, we have here articulate the rootedness of education in philosophical, socio-cultural, historical, psychological, and political context. So sa course outcomes, daramo ni siya. So doon sa man siya, it is introduced. And then for program learning outcomes number 2, demonstrate mastery of subject matter or discipline. So D, so demonstrated. Okay, so basically, at the end of the koan program, among students, which is kita under this subject, taking this course, we can demonstrate the mastery of the subject content matter or the discipline. And we have here and so on. So, muna siyang example sa course, no, the mapping of program learning outcomes with course learning outcomes. So kani is for kuan siya for college, and for high school elementary mao lang gihapon ang kanang process, ang steps. Agto lang siya mag-differ sa unsa ang matrix na gamiton and unsa ang gamiton na intended skill. So maglaylay siya depende sa school. I think ang kanina matrix is mo ang pinaka most common na gigamit sa mga school kaning ingani pormaha. Uban na daghan ni siya na ko laylay niya na. But this is the most common, which is very easy to understand. Yeah, but di mo siyang tanawon if align ba ang course outcome sa problem program learning outcome is. Mo nabot ka mo siya sa competency or the intensity skill. So mo ni siya ang indicator unsa ang level of attainment or unsa ang expected sa student at the end of the program or the course. So I hope that nakasabot ang tanan. I think mo tong ato nang hinumduman ang steps. So mo tong mo gamit tawag start with the matrix, and the second is use a competitive skill or indicators sa para ma-identify if unsa ang learning ang expected outcome for the students. Okay. And for our next reporter, which is si Mr. Joshua Abelanyasa, he will be going to show us how to map program learning outcomes with course learning outcomes based on the DepEd Mathematics Curriculum Guide. So sa ipakita na example, maura sila adto, I believe. Lagi, maura jud sila. Mao lang. And he will going to introduce to us kung unsa ang DepEd Mathematics Curriculum Guide na gigamit sa DepEd. Okay. So, thank you everyone for listening. I hope na nakasabot ang tanan. And for those na nakakuha sa saktong answer, don't worry because I will, ako na siyang ilista. So, first come, first serve, first three correct answer. So, mga takong points. So, don't worry about that. And sa mga naka-answer, congratulations. Sa mga naka-answer pero naunahan lang, congratulations. Better luck next time na lang. And then, for those na wala ni participates, still congratulations. At least you were able, at least ka nang naminaw muna ko sa discussion. And I hope that in the next, in your quiz next week, you were able to answer the quiz with ease. So hopefully, makakuha na kong score ang tanan. So thank you!
Hi guys, good afternoon. I am Joshua Villanosa, and today I'm going to continue our discussion on the topic mapping program learning outcomes with course learning outcomes based on the DepEd Mathematics Curriculum Guide. So, first of all, I'm going to just briefly share my thoughts about this topic. It's because I'm really concerned of some of the performance of the teachers, especially that there are many rallies. I have noticed that the teachers and the staff are complaining concerning so many paperworks. No, have you heard that news that they want the teachers load, especially in the teaching, from 6 hours to 4 hours, and they want an assistant teacher, or they want DepEd to hire a staff to assist them in the paperworks. So this topic is all about the curriculum guide and the mapping the PLOs and the CLOs. Now, so they previously my colleagues Nabel and Jean discussed the background and the definition of the PLOs and CLOs. So now I'm going to discuss or share with you how to map the PLOs and CLOs. Okay? So at the end of the lesson, our learning outcomes explain the central concepts, circling the curriculum mapping, B apply what's understood, mapping CLOs, and I'm focused on the C, which is to demonstrate how to map PLOs and CLOs based on the DepEd Mathematics curriculum guide. Okay? So, mapping PLOs with CLOs. Now, since our topic is basing on the curriculum guide of the Department of Education, I have researched and extracted the curriculum guide of the mathematics, and this is a very broad uh, curriculum guide since it involves grade 1 to grade 10. But since we are secondary educators, I'll just be focusing on the grade 7 to grade 10 curriculum guide. Okay? So first of all, as you can see in the screen, that is the framework of a mathematics educator, no? So we're just not just teaching the lessons, subtopics, letting them solve, letting them make projects and all. No. So this is a framework which encapsulating everything what the curriculum is all about, no, in the mathematics subject. So first, as you can see in the center, there's critical thinking. Number one, critical thinking. Of course, we're just not teaching them knowledge. We are not feeding them the topic itself, no? So we are feeding them something so that they can really understand and formulate on themselves critical thinking. Right? Just like me, how did I learn mathematics? Oh, did I appreciate my surroundings because I have learned mathematics? So that is a critical thinking, no? So for example, on before this era or before technology was invented, how did the farmers really tell that it's going to be a sunny summer or it's going to be the rainy season or winter or the fall, no? So uh, they are discovering on themselves the time, the position of the sun, etc., etc. So that involves critical thinking, my dear colleagues, no? And the next one is problem solving. Of course, I can really attest to this in my early high school days that my mind is overloaded with mathematics, especially in the problem solving. But as I have learned that the problem solving is very important, not just for the problem to be solved itself, but you to really understand and to find a way based on the formulas and etc. So there are two, again, critical thinking and problem solving. So at the side, these are the standards, no? The standards, we have the content itself. The curriculum guide provides the content of the entire school year, which as a teacher you are going to follow what's written in the what is stated in the curriculum guide. You know, we are not teachers just to make our own topics and lessons. We really need to uh, depend on the content standards of the top or on the Department of Education. Okay, so you have the content, the context, what is written in there, and then we have also mathematical tools, mathematical sorry, values and attitudes. Of course, this is very important. No, what is the main goal, or what can you get in studying mathematics? For me, my just before I graduated high school, I can't really tell, I can't really remember any formula that I personally want to discover, or any topic that I personally admire in the subject mathematics. But as I have reminisced the moment that my teacher told me that you can get discipline in mathematics, right? In all areas, you are being surrounded by math every time you woke up. Oh, it's 10:41, or it's like this, the time is like that. And the time that you woke up, no? Imagine there's no time. There's no mathematics. You can't really tell what time is it. It's very hard, no? So discipline, and the other one is mathematics gives us passion. Some might disagree, but as you really focus your attention on what mathematics is all about, it's all about passion. Passion to discover, innovate, passion to explore, passion to really improve our surroundings, and that is the result of the technology. Okay, so that, and the last one is we have skills and processes. Of course, how and how to do, and what are the processes that we need to teach the students. Okay, so there are also inside the circle, these are the encompassing standards of critical and problem solving. We have constructivism, reflective learning, experiential and situated learning, discovery and inquiry based learning, cooperative learning. So they need to construct, reflect, experience, discover, and cooperate. No? we just we're not just like, as I've said earlier, teach, teach and teach. It's all about the students, not you, because you already know the subject. So what is the purpose of you as a teacher? To really instill them to reflect, construct, experience mathematics in a different level, not just only letting them solve on the board. Okay, Gene solve this one, and okay, and then and if they cannot solve on the board, they will be humiliated, no? And if their score on the mathematics after the assessment will be somewhat humiliating for them. Okay, so this is the framework of being a mathematics teacher. So I'm not going to focus it any longer, but I'm just telling you this to really inspire us to pursue excellence in mathematics, because without mathematics, I don't know what. Okay, and I'm showing you the conceptual framework. Okay, these are the contents of the entire concept of mathematics. First is yeah, this is a critical thinking. So as I have discussed earlier, this is just the explanation, no? Okay, reflective learning, subjectivism, cooperative learning. Okay, so I'm focusing on how to construct and map the learning outcome. So on the contents itself, the mathematics is focused on, in the early basic education or in the secondary education, numbers and number sense, measurement, geometry, which is, I really find challenging, patterns and algebra, statistics and probability, and yeah, statistics and probability. So those are the main topics of the course, no? Course description, or the program of the mathematics. So let's focus on the grade 7 to 10. The key standards, the what you're really going to teach them or being founded on is the skills involving numbers and number sense, measurement, patterns and algebra. So the one that I mentioned earlier. Okay, this is a detailed level standards, as my colleagues have been discussing this previous, the standard should be like this and like that. So it's detailed there. They should understand in grade 7, they understand concepts of numbers, number sense, especially sets. No? In the grade 8, patterns and algebra, principles of patterns and algebra. Grade 9, they can already know quadratic equations, no? Functions, social algebraic, radicals, and so on and so forth. And grade 10 is sequences, series, polynomials. Now, let's go to the importance or curriculum guide. What really is a curriculum guide? So, this is what it looks like, the curriculum guide. No, the curriculum guide is the foundation of what we are going to teach this entire school year. So, as I have said earlier, we are not inventors. We do not invent lessons. So the curriculum guide provides a framework or a detailed instruction on the course and the program of the entire semester or quarter or even a day-to-day basis. So as you can see there, content, that is that's the lesson, the entire lesson for the whole semester or in the quarter, and the content standards. Okay, this is what we call what to know. No, imagine yourself as a student and student, both student and teacher. So what do you really want them to know? So that is the in this one, demonstrating and understanding key concepts of sets and the real number system. Okay, gets. And next is they already know what to know. Now, what to do? So this is the performance standard. They are able to formulate challenging situation, blah blah blah, and sets and real numbers and solve them in a variety of strategies. They can you can tell them or be guided by the performance standards on what you want them to do. Okay? Ox pa kayo dyan? Baka natutulog na kayo ah. Joke lang. Next is the learning competency. Okay, this is a detail, no? That the performance and the content standard itself is like a really broad topic. Demonstrate understanding of sets and real number systems. So in the learning competency, that is very detailed. It's a day-to-day basis or weekly basis of lesson. So number 1, example lang. Describe well-defined sets, subsets, universal sets, and the null set cardinality. So we have undergone this one. It's not like in the first day of class. All the subjects, all the learning competency is being taught and we know. That is why learning competency is important for not to be diverted into another topic or lesson that is not part of the content. Okay, so that is detailed subtopics of the lesson. Now, next is the code. Look at the code. The code is not just written there for you to mess it up with the curriculum guide. No, because the assessors themselves, the principals, and the superintendents, supervisors will really check if the code is aligned on what the curriculum map or what you construct in the curriculum map. Okay, so I'll be explaining to you or walkthrough of the code. No, next, the learning material. So you can find so many resources there. That is the basis of your your resources. You can get from there, so that at least you will not be you'll have not have a hard time in getting resources. Okay, that is the form the curriculum guide. Now, okay, just a walkthrough example. This is the code. The code is this one, M7AL2G2. So this is the code. M7 is the mathematics grade 7, AL is the lesson patterns algebra, 2 the numerical is the second quarter, G is 7 week 7, and 2 is the Arabic number. Okay, next, curriculum. Now let's go to PLOs. So we have the program, which is the mathematics, and the course is detailed outline of the program. Now, how to construct the curriculum map? This is I'm going to show you an example from the DepedCG, of the curriculum map. It's based also on my father's curriculum map. My father is a mathematics teacher. So this is an example. Just an example. So what is the difference? Or as you might say, what can you really add on to the curriculum guide? It's just not like you are going to copy everything on now and you're going to put curriculum map. No. Curriculum map is just a mirror on the curriculum guide, but you are going to add the assessment activities, no? So it's your own process and thinking. You are going to innovate, create, and discover assessment and activities that are necessary for the students. Example, you have discussed sets on the first day, subsets and chuchu and all, but the students are not listening. That is the one of the hard part of teaching, because as a passionate teacher and you can see that the students are not listening, so after the discussion you're going to give quiz, and sometimes me as a student also, mama, I can say, ma'am, why I have not yet understood the lesson, why are you giving quiz? And the teacher say, oh, the quiz is meant for you, and for me to assess your learning if you are really listening, and it can be reflected on their scores. So it's not uh, a judgment on them or a punishment. The quiz is not a punishment, but it's for you to really know and assess where have I, where do I lack, no? So do I need to repeat my lesson again tomorrow or the next day for me to impart the content standards and the performance standards, right? So that is the purpose of the assessment. Okay, and assessment, there is a sample written examination, we have the Venn diagram, word problem solving, and word Venn diagram. So that's an assessment. And the activities involves group, maybe group or pair, think and pair, group activity, and also it stimulates their uh, grouping, no? with with the other students. And the resources, of course, it's from the curriculum guide, but you can also put your resources there if you have, no? And the last is the core values, no? So and the framework which I have shared to you a while ago, you need to instill values in them. So again, the core values are in this amiable, goal oriented, nurturing, and sense. So again, in mapping, guys, the curriculum guide, meet I have a hard time also in understanding, because maybe I'm not still yet a teacher, but the curriculum map is not different, because I mean it's not separate from the curriculum guide. It's just that the curriculum map is your guide for the whole, let's say, quarter. This is quarterly, first quarter, second quarter. This is your guide, so that you will not be also not be, guide, you will not be uh, confused in making the lesson plan. You still need to make lesson plan, daily log, uh, yeah, this curriculum map, the unit plan. This is really your guide, no? Okay, the first quarter, this is my topic, this is what I'm going to give, assessment, activities, and etc, etc. Okay, so week 3, week 4, week 5, also in the quarter month you can put week 1, week 2, so that at the end of each week you can say, oh, I have attained, or I can really tell that the students have understood the topic. So you can proceed in the week 2 and another topic, another lesson, another assessment and activities. Okay, so that's all. My reference is from DepedCG Bohol. uh, Thank you very much for listening. I hope you understand understand or really get something from what I have discussed or what our group discussed. Thank you very much, guys. God bless.